Good evening and welcome to the Sound Off Show. My name is Linda Kirker. I host the program and I thank you so much for tuning in tonight and joining me and my guest. You may notice the two flags on the screen. That's because not only am I a patriotic American, but we have Mother's Day coming up, and I wanted to salute all of our moms out there. And also, this is the month where we have Memorial Day to honor our fallen soldiers and sailors and Marines and all the rest, Air Force and one
Coast
more.
Guard.
Coast Guard, thank you. All those wonderful people who sacrifice. So that's why the flags are there, and that's one of the reasons I'm a proud American. We have a lot to be proud of in this country, even though we're having many struggles. So with that, I want to introduce my guest. He's on the program for the first time ever, and I hope not the last time. I hope he'll be back several times going forward. Welcome, Jay Shepard.
It's a pleasure to see you, Linda.
Yes, it's wonderful to have you on the program.
It's great to be here. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you. We've been friends for a long time, and I'm so proud of you, Jay. We can talk briefly about how we met and how we established a friendship from the get-go. But I just want folks to know that you are the vice chairman of the Republican National Committee in Washington, D.C., and that is a position well earned by you, my friend. Thank you for serving there.
Well, thank you for mentioning it. One of the exciting things about being here with you, Linda,
What's that?
is that I am currently the vice chairman of the Republican National Committee, and I'm chair of the Northeast region. But what a lot of people don't realize is that my political aspirations and ambitions and everything were inspired by you, Linda Kirker.
Oh.
Years ago, I think it was in the year 2000, I went door to door with you when
Yes,
you
you did.
ran for the state legislature in Essex Junction. You won
Big time.
big time and re-election, and as an inspiration to making good things happen in that service to our country and service to our state, you are such a great role model and example that it really has inspired me to do more and more at a national level. And it's just fantastic to know you, and I appreciate you allowing me to be on your show.
Well, you're so sweet to say all that. I do what I do like you do because I believe so strongly. I'm strongly motivated to try to make a difference. And I believe you are too. And it was fun to have you going door to door, and you brought your two daughters along because you said you wanted them to have an understanding of what you do and what it takes to run for office.
Yeah, and I think another important part of that is that to show them that there was a female role model.
Oh my.
And that women are out there getting the job done, and that it's more than just a man's world out there. And I think those days you were a trailblazer. I mean, it's only been 20 years ago, but there was not the involvement that there is today.
Really?
And I think it's
I never thought about
people like
that.
you that have made a difference.
Well, you're very nice to say that. I never thought of that at the time. I was inspired because I feel that there's work to be done, and there are voices to be heard, and so you step up.
You do. And one of the interesting things that's just happened recently is Kamala Harris has just suggested that Bernie and Joe Biden stepped down.
She did? I didn't hear that.
Because if they really believed in the fact that women need to be involved, then they should step aside for a woman to be the next nominee for president.
On.
The big important part that they're missing as Democrats is you aren't handed something. Women are not a minority in this country. They are a powerful entity. They're getting the job done every single day.
Yes.
And they've earned the right to compete.
Absolutely.
And you don't get there just because of your gender, and the identity politics that are out there are wrong. So you are a role model saying, don't vote for me just because I'm a woman.
Right.
Vote for me because I'm going to get the job done. I care about people. I'm consistent in my beliefs. That's the way it needs to be done, and that's the way women earn those opportunities. It's not by telling men to step aside. It's saying, I have something to say, listen to me, and if my beliefs and my views are better than the others, you'll vote for me and I'll earn your respect and your vote.
That is also true, Jay. Today, in today's world, it seems that women are assuming that they're looked at as less than, instead of saying, hey, I'm just as hardworking and competent and able and dedicated as anybody else, male or female. And we women cannot just accept the, oh, poor me, women are not treated well. We get treated the way we allow people to treat us. And I've said that to a friend of mine. We teach people how to treat us by what we accept from them, what we allow them to do. That's my philosophy. And, we need women running and we need men running. And I don't really care what your sex is or what your skin color is or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. If you have the principles and that are going to make this state or this nation better, and you believe in our Constitution and the founding documents and individual rights and responsibilities that go along with them, and so much more, the role of the federal government, then go ahead and run. Stand up. Speak out. Too many people today in the general public are not standing up and speaking out. And that's why these individuals and groups that are on a mission to take away a lot of the things that this country was founded on, and there are those people, then, we give them the forum to do that. If we don't stand up and fight and say, we want to protect what the founders gave us.
You're absolutely right. And in the big picture issues that I have with the Democrat Party in particular is it is identity politics. They have their national conventions. They say we have to have a certain percentage of women. We have to have a certain percentage of African Americans. We have to have a certain percentage of Hispanic Americans. So everything is judged by your gender first and not the depth of your commitment to this country and what you believe in.
Amen.
So until we can get away from identity politics, everything's going to be judged askew. Let's judge it on the depth of your character. And, Martin Luther King was very, very strong, and he spoke about those. And, deep down, he held Republican values. He believed in the Constitution. He believed in the greatness of this country. Victimhood has to go out the window.
Absolutely.
So people can step up. And I think we have to respect those that have gone before us, and everything's been built on their shoulders.
Yes.
So nothing is new. And when people talk about the Constitution, and I know you're truly outspoken about the Constitution.
Definitely.
And your liberty camps and the things that you're doing with kids that make a difference. It's all based on our Constitution and the rule of law.
Yes, and personal responsibility and accountability. Those things all go hand in hand. Our young people, I feel, in many ways, we're letting them down today. And I wish that I could see a very strong agenda, a teaching, agenda for our young people to learn about the founding of this country. and not this, oh, well, we had, we weren't fair to the Indians, and, there were slaves on the farms. But guess what? We're the kind of country that did away with that, all right? That means, how many countries will just no longer have slaves and give that up? The beauty of this country is that we let go of that. And that's one of the things that I think is great. But this identity politics is very destructive. It doesn't focus on the really important things for everybody. We're all in this together.
We are.
Every one of us, regardless of, whether you're a single mom like I have been at one point, or whether your skin color is different from one another. It doesn't matter. What matters is who we are as a human being, and whether we appreciate what we have in this country. That there are certain people, I see it every day, who are trying to destroy the structure and the history of this country. When I see people wanting to destroy the historic structures, and they don't want God in the Pledge of Allegiance, and so many other things, it just drives me crazy. This is all part, we have a Judeo-Christian founding. And most of the founders of this country had been involved in religious training. And there's nothing wrong with that, because those principles are good for everybody.
They are. And one of the big things and one of the greatness of this country is that we value religious freedom. So although we have principles and values that are part of our foundation, we accept and encourage differing views and differing concepts. And it's not by accident that freedom of religion is in what amendment of the Constitution?
The first.
The first.
Number one.
Number one. And so one of the big things about loving this country is believing in the Constitution and all of the amendments. Mm-hmm. Whether it's the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the 10th Amendment, these are important values. And if we want to say, well, we're going to now pick and choose what part of the Constitution we believe in and which one we're going to follow, what if today we don't want women to vote anymore? Is that any less important than the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, the right to bear arms?
Right.
The right to bear arms not to be infringed.
Exactly.
How much simpler and more well-spoken is it than that?
How clear does it have to be, right?
Exactly.
Unless you have dark-colored glasses on and you don't want to see the facts.
Right. And one of the big things that they've been doing is they've been talking about Thomas Jefferson and the founders and owning slaves and doing this. And for some reason, construing that to be a negative towards our Constitution. Mm-hmm. The reality is it's a document. It's a document that has built this country. Whoever wrote it is less relevant than the fact that this is guidelines and this is the principles of our nation. Yeah. And it's pretty exciting because we are the only country that allows for freedom. And one of the things a lot of people misconstrue about our country is that we are a country of a democracy and that it's voting and all of that. And you're about to jump and say, we're a republic.
Absolutely.
And we are a republic. But one of the things that makes us different than other countries where people vote is that we follow the rule of law. And without the rule of law, the ability to vote has no value and no meaning.
Exactly. What are you voting? What's the structure that you're voting for or against?
Right. So we don't want to be caught up in the fact that, in Russia, Putin is elected. Okay. Yeah. And you talk about other countries, the Democratic Republic of, pick a name that's mm-hmm. a socialist country. They don't have the rule of law, which treats people equally, regardless of their stature in life. So it's really, really important that when we talk about the greatness of America, we bring it back to the fact that we have a Constitution. Every amendment, every part of that Constitution is equally important.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more with what you just said. And by the way, it was Thomas Jefferson and the Republicans who freed the slaves.
It absolutely was.
The Democrats voted no.
Well, they voted no in 1860s because the Republican Party was founded as the anti-slavery party, that we were going to eliminate slavery.
Yep.
Vermont was a very Republican state back then because
Yes,
we
150 years.
banned slavery long before this country did.
Yep.
In the 60s, when the civil rights actions came through, it was the Democrats that voted again and again not to give full rights to African Americans. And somehow they've gotten that all construed.
Well, they've sold a bill of
differently.
goods.
And we are the party of equal opportunity, equal rights, not identity politics. Let's judge people for what they contribute to society and the difference that they make. And it doesn't always have to be a contribution in a political way.
No, it's who you are as a person.
Right.
Do you treat people kindly? Do you work with children? I was just talking with my grandson earlier about coaching children in a sport. In the summertime, baseball. He was a big baseball player, and his work won't allow him now to be a coach, but he's an umpire at the games now when he can do that. And it's giving. It's not all take. It's give and take.
Right. And I think we have to realize that there's value in every profession. And one of the big things we talk about when we look at the American flags, I have a son-in-law who's on a submarine.
Oh.
But that contribution is fantastic. But the contribution that people make in our communities, the contributions of being a mother,
yes,
that's an education that needs to be spoken about. And what each and every one of us does is a little bit different. And we can't be judged on the fact that this job is so much bigger and so much more important than another job. As long as we're out there trying to make a difference in being good
best.
people, and whatever you do it extremely well.
Exactly. I learned that at a very young age. My mom was tough, but she was loving. And that was a great combination because I learned lessons that have served me well throughout my life, whether it be work ethic or personal responsibility or accountability for what I've done and how I've done it. Those things I learned all of those things at a very young age. And I tried to teach my children, they're both hard workers, and my grandchildren, both hard workers. And work is a good four-letter word.
It is. And this country offers us the opportunities to make a difference.
Yes,
and
it does.
As long as we don't sit back and just allow things to come to us, that you contribute in any way that you can. And the contributions are very small. And if you look at, I'm a Catholic and I'm a Christian, and you look at the Passion of Christ, and as he's carrying the cross, a woman came up and wiped his brow.
Yes.
Very small gift. But even the little things in life really make a difference, and we have to appreciate it. And sometimes we don't understand the consequences of our actions, but those little things make a big difference.
You
Helping
bet.
somebody up, caring, giving, a smile.
I don't know if you have this, I'm assuming maybe you have had this experience, but what has happened to me several times in the last couple of years, I have chills just thinking about it because I feel that God put me in a place at a time when someone at that place needed help. It has happened a number of times, and I didn't think about it at the time. I just did what I felt was needed, whether it was giving somebody emotional support, which happened a couple of times when people were struggling, or whether it's showing up when like I had happen was on Thanksgiving, and I was in St. Johnsbury, and Northfield, excuse me, and I stopped to pick up something to bring to my daughters for, she asked me to pick up something, and I went to a couple of places and they didn't have it, and so I found another place. I said, well, I'll check here. Well, the parking lot was empty, with the exception of there was one vehicle down in the parking lot, and the driver's door was open. There was a young man sitting there with his feet on the ground. It was chilly. It was November. And he didn't have a jacket on or anything. And I thought, in today's world, you're a little leery. Well, is this a setup? Do I have to be careful? So I said, well, I'm going to go into the store first and see if they have what I need. And then when I come out, I'll see what I want to do. Well, when I came out, there was a man walking from the car, not this young man, another man walking from the car. And I said, does he need help? And he said, yes, he needs jumper cables. And I said, problem solved. That was just a little thing. Right. But it got him, whoops, what was that? It got him on the road. Oh.
That was me.
Oh, it was not. So anyway, and it's just that kind of thing. It doesn't have to be a big thing that you do to help someone else or to make a difference. Right. Being a good parent is one of the best things you can do for our country, to raise children who understand about our country and about their role and responsibility and so forth, and their rights. I wanted to say something about what is it you were saying. I'll think of it, and I'll come back to it. I can't remember exactly now what I wanted to jump in with, but I'll think of it. So we have, how much, 21 Democrats running for president?
I think there's 22 now.
Oh, my.
Because, well, maybe by the end of the show, there'll be 23 or 24 or 25, whatever. It's crazy.
It's hilarious.
And the exciting part is the president's going to be reelected. I
believe it.
And if you look at, for those of us that believe in momentum and that success is rewarded, he has a higher approval rating now. 54, isn't it? Than Obama did at this point. And who was more popular than Obama? Well, I can tell you, Trump.
He's a hard worker. He loves the country. He's trying to make a difference in the places where nobody has wanted to delve into before. And he wants to strengthen this nation for the people instead of demeaning and diminishing the country, which we've seen in the past.
Right. When he talks about making America great again, he's really talking about bringing out the individual greatness of each of us and asking us to do a little bit more, knowing that we're making a difference. And I tell people all the time, if I wanted somebody who was nice and friendly and all of that to be president, my mother would be the president of the United States. She's 93 years old.
Wow. God bless her.
She does very well. She's very friendly, will do anything for you. I'd get to sleep in the Lincoln bedroom regularly. I mean, it would be fantastic. But the reality is, this was the man for the time.
Absolutely.
And there were 17 candidates that ran for president. Mm-hmm. I was fortunate enough to meet almost all of them before they ran. This is the only one of those 17 that can make a difference, that's willing to take people on and do the right thing regardless of the backlash. Most people would have melted by now.
He's not afraid.
He is not afraid.
He's a businessman, and what is a bigger business than running the government of the United States of America? We need a businessman. We need someone who isn't afraid to make important decisions. We need someone who's not afraid of backlash. Mm-hmm. And look at the international leaders that he has met with, and I admire the man so much. He cares about the people of this country and the future of this country, and he wants the people of this country to be successful. And what is a country if not the people? And how does a country succeed or not if the people are not industrious and, hardworking and believe in what the country stands for? What a gift we were given by the founders of this country. They escaped Great Britain and King George III because they didn't have religious freedom, and there were all kinds of gripes about how they were treated in Great Britain at that time. And they weren't going to put up with it anymore. I have such respect for that. They had enough, and they said, we're going to find a better solution for us, an option. And can you imagine leaving your home, getting onto a ship, gathering up your children and a few of your goods, and crossing the ocean and coming to a place where you don't have a home, you don't have a garden, you don't have, anything really that you might need except for what you brought with you. And they built up this country. A lot of people died because of lack of food and so forth, but they were so motivated to have a better life, a life of freedom, and not a huge government. What our founders, as you know, Jay, what our founders created was a constitution that minimized the role of the federal government. I think, I could be wrong, folks, and if someone knows better, or if you know better, let us know. You can call in. The phone number will come up on, I'm sure, on the screen if you have something to say. But they were just so devoted to creating a better life. And they created a document after they got rid of the Articles of Confederation, which weren't strong enough for them. Then they created the Constitution, and they limited the power of the federal government. I think there are 18 designated roles for the federal government in the Constitution. And guess what? None of those is education or health care. Our federal government needs to get out of the business of education and indoctrination of our children, and they need to get out of the health care scenario. Would you like to address Medicare for all?
No. I'd rather not address it because Medicare for all means health care less for everyone.
Exactly.
So,
and a huge trillions of debt.
It makes no sense. We haven't been able to do that well with our VA system, which we're working on.
That's government.
It's getting a little better. The VA is getting a little better under this president because there's a focus, there's a commitment to make a difference.
Yes.
But it's a mess. And what it is government overstepping its bounds.
Absolutely.
And it's the power of the government over the people. When the power comes from the people and comes from outside of Washington, D.C., and they live in this fantasy bubble that they know the answers.
Yeah.
And they know what's right. And they can make decisions for you and I when we know local is where it happens.
Absolutely.
Designation, self-choices, individual responsibility.
Yep.
That's what makes America great. And when you go back to the Constitution, a quick little note about that, these were a group of flawed men, but they were endowed by our Creator and had mentioned they were endowed by our Creator to do good things. Mm-hmm. And, they were very fortunate that they were able to bring to our country this foundation, and they were so inspired. And if you look back on the troubles that they faced, and it was so few of them that did so many good things, and they suffered dearly for it.
Yes,
Most of
they
them
did.
lost their fortunes.
I know.
So when you see what a small group of people can do and make such a big difference, you also have to be a little nervous about it, because there's a small group of people in D.C. that are trying to do bad things.
I was thinking the same thing.
And if you look at these 22 people that, believing in this Green New Deal, which is what, $93 trillion? To pay $93 trillion, I don't know if you realize that if you took all of the income of everyone in America that makes over $30,000 a year, that doesn't equal $93 trillion.
No, I'm sure it doesn't.
Where does the money come from? Well, we'll print more money. Well,
Right.
there's an
More
interesting
debt.
answer.
More debt
More debt.
means more vulnerability for the country. We need to be paying down our debt, and our Congress needs to be, instead of creating a new program, and the same thing in Vermont, create a new program for every little perceived need. I just can't deal with it. We need to empower the people, as you say, and diminish the government. You know what these people in Washington are doing? They're making as many people as possible in this country dependent on government. And what I've told students when I've spoken with them, the more that government does for you, the less control you have over your own life. And one of the kids wrote me a note the next week when I got letters from them, said, I never thought about how the more that government does for me, the less control I have over my own life. And it's true. And we're going to get ourselves into such a mess where we have no authority or control over anything in our lives. Right. An overly powerful, misguided government. And that's what a lot of these people in Washington are working toward. And there are a number of them who are trying to diminish the principles of this country.
You're absolutely right. And it's working for them, because they are making us a country of dependence. And it actually started during the 30s and 40s when government decided that they were going to be mama and papa to us. And we've become even much more of a nanny state since then. And one of the other things that they're doing is they're saying, you do not need to be responsible. The government will be responsible for you. So it breaks up families. So you're looking at people who are dependent upon the government, and some of the men in the families are not stepping up to be the type of parents that they need to be, because the government has put them in a position, putting mothers in a position to say, I need help from the government because my man is not stepping up to do what he needs to do as a responsible father and husband. The government is now the father and the husband. It doesn't work that way. It's not intended to be that way. And
Right.
we need to make sure that the government gets out of our families and
I agree.
does what the 18 points, of which I can't name, but I know Linda can.
No, I know some of them.
So there are responsibilities and things that the government can do. But most of the stuff that they're spending money on and putting us in debt to the Chinese, putting us in debt to oligarchs.
22 trillion right now. It's up. And the spending by Congress has to be under control, and it isn't. We have a lot of things that need fixing in this country. And you know what it's going to require, Jay? It's going to require the average person out there who's watching right now, perhaps, to stand up, speak out, focus on raising children who can be independent, hardworking adults, and stand by the principles of this country. Because if we don't fight for them, the founders of this country knew that there was only one way that the rights and the opportunities and the freedoms that the people of this country were given by the founders would be sustained is if the people fought for those by being, to maintain them by being involved in government and vigilant as to what's going on in our government, whether it's local, county, state, or federal. We have to, the more people who understand what we've been given and why it's so important and why we need to maintain it, we need to get people running for office at every level of government to protect for future generations and our own children and grandchildren what we were given, the gift that we were given. And by the way, in terms of the responsibilities of the federal government, number one, national security, building an army and protecting the people of this country. And that, folks, means a solid border wall. We have immigration, and nobody's against immigration, legal immigration. But when you come into this country illegally, you are showing a disrespect for our laws and our people. But I have to say that our government through the years has been neglectful because we have not enforced our laws. And why we, the people, are allowing that to happen is beyond me. We need to be writing and calling the offices of our congressmen, and especially the Democrats won't fund the wall. So what are we doing? We're putting our military at the border. We're building, facilities for people. We're feeding them. We're taking care of their medical needs and everything. When we have Americans and military retirees and so forth who are living on the streets, we have Americans to take care of. And if you want to come here with a good purpose. Come with skills that you have, that you want to use here to help strengthen this country and be independent, self-reliant. And it's heartbreaking that these people are dealing with all of these issues from their own nations. But we have a lot of people suffering in this country too. We've allowed that to happen through the years by having low expectations and many other things. Drug issues. We have a lot of battles to work on in this country. And to bring in more people when we already have debt and personal problems in this country is not a good idea.
Yeah. One of the things that we really want to make clear is that this president and this Republican Party believe in immigration.
Yes.
That it is a strength of this country to bring people in here in an orderly fashion. So if the commitment has to be there for them to follow the rules of law,
Absolutely.
So if they're not willing to follow the rules of law to get here, how can we expect them to respect the rule of law once they get here?
Right on.
And the big thing that we want to say is we are a Republican Party in a presidency that believes in immigration, but we are not a party that believes in invaders coming into our country. And that is what is happening on our southern border. These people are invading our country.
And we're letting it happen.
And we're letting it happen.
Because we're not securing our border, and that's primarily because the Democrats will not cough up the money to provide that. So what that tells me is if the Democrats in Congress do not want the border secured to protect the American people, then why do they want all of these people coming into our country to put more burden on our healthcare system and on our finances and on our schools and so much more? Why do they want that? you have to assume that if they don't want to secure the border, they think it's okay for all of these people to come in. And then we have, our schools overburdened, and like I said, the healthcare system and so many other things.
We do have room in this country for more people, but it has to be in orderly fashion. It has to be
legal.
And one of the things the president has just done is he's added another 30 or 40,000 guest workers to come to this country. Now, the guest worker program is very orderly so that people who have ability to work the farms, to work in industries that we need people are able to come to this country with a set amount of time, with a set skill set, and they can go back and help their families in their own countries with the knowledge that they will go back after their guest worker program ends.
Are you talking about the worker visa program?
It's a guest worker program, and it's part of that worker visa program that
because my understanding is, and I agree that there's merit to that, because we definitely need some people with definite skills in this country, and employers are looking for qualified employees, but we need to make sure then that these people have the skills that are needed in our society. But we also, the visa system now is rather a mess.
Right. These are not part of the visa
Okay,
program.
good.
These are people who say, we need farm workers in Vermont. These are the people who are qualified as farm workers that will come and work in Vermont during the harvest season or during the planting season. Then they go back to their home countries, and we know who they are. They're not here illegally. They're not getting driver's licenses. They are part of a specific program, which is the guest worker program, which is really a way to solve, when everyone says we've got people here that, Americans don't want to work and all of that. This is an opportunity to bring people in areas that we don't have people, but it's an orderly system and it follows our rule of law.
You know what? I have questions about that in terms of if it's a year-round job, and can people come in through the guest worker program for a year-round job? And are they paying taxes here? Are they sending their earnings back to their home country, or are they paying income taxes? I want to know that.
Absolutely they are.
Okay.
And that's part of the employer who brings them in. There's a set of rules and a set of laws that say you are bringing in X number of people. They're going to work the harvest season, or they're going to be the planting season, that they're here for a specific amount of time. They're paid. They're on the payroll. They have specific jobs. And if there's health insurance involved, that health insurance is paid by the employer, not by the federal government. So they're integrated into the economy of our country, so that it's controlled and it's understandable and it's
okay. So that's different from the visa program.
Completely different from the visa
Okay,
program.
that's
And the
good.
visa program is kind of out of control because people come here and never leave.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's an education visa or an engagement, you're engaged to someone who's an American, or work, job, whatever, visa. Okay, so we have a little under 15 minutes left. So what else is on the agenda here? Let's see.
Yeah, I want to mention a little bit about the Green New Deal.
Go for it.
And all the senators that are running for president are enthusiastic supporters of the Green New Deal, not understanding that it's $93 trillion. And I need to put my glasses on to read one of the lines so I get it right, because it's hard for me to believe. One of the lines in the Green New Deal, which our Senator Bernie, or as the president calls him, Crazy Bernie, talks about economic freedom for all who are unable or unwilling to work.
Oh, unwilling to work.
Right. So they believe that everyone should be getting this basic income that other countries have tried. But one of the things that I look at is where did they come up with this that they're going to pay people who are unwilling to work? Well, they have precedent because we've been doing it for years. It's called Congress. So what they've done is they've looked at their own role models in Congress, where when Bernie ran for president in 2016, he missed 37 out of 38 votes.
Yes, I know.
And it was interesting when Bernie said that, you too can become a millionaire. All you have to do is write a best-selling book.
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking, all right, what did he do that I can't do? Well, we were paying him to be a U.S. Senator when he wrote that book. Uh-huh. And while he wrote the book, he wasn't even doing his job in the Senate.
Well, he's been roaming around the country running for president, and we're not paying him to do that.
Unfortunately, we are.
Well, we're not meant to be paying him to run around the country, running for governor, excuse me. President, thank you.
And how's he flying? Oh, he flies charter. He doesn't fly commercial anymore.
Oh.
It's too inconvenient. Another inconvenient truth.
Must be nice, huh?
It must be nice. And going off onto another tangent, and I'm all over the place, and you can roll me back in if you want. But one of the things they talk about is the whole climate change.
I don't buy it.
Well, and the sad part is our kids are really looking at something to make a difference. And you have to appreciate that they have this fear, and they've been sold a bill of goods on it.
Absolutely.
And I know when I was younger, and when you were younger, we lived through the 60s when people were protesting the Vietnam War. Mm-hmm. And there's a difference there because there was actually a war that they were protesting. Yeah. And they were trying to make a difference. And whether you agreed with it or not, and some of us, I was only 13 in 1969, so I didn't really have the depth of knowledge about what the protests were about and all of that. And we were talking about the hippies and this love generation. But they were protesting a war that was actually happening with some way that there were measurable results of their actions. Mm-hmm. So what they've done now is they've gone out and they said, climate change. Oh, what does it mean? Ask them what it means and what their goals are. And what they're going to do is they're going to say, well, we're all going to be dead in 12 years if we don't do something now. Right. Well, fortunately, they've got a role model there, Al Gore, who
multi-billionaire
20 years ago talked about the inconvenient truth and climate change and global warming, I believe it was at the time. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't for him, we'd all be dead now because all the great contributions that he's made to the world.
You know what I call him? The hoax master. He portrayed a hoax on the American people and even around the world, people believing that we're all contributing to climate change or global warming. I personally believe that there is a natural flow of heat and cold. We've had an ice age. We have warmer times. While there are ice flows that are melting, there are also icebergs that are growing in some parts of the world. And it's all meant to control the people, to control the land, to control the vehicles, to control farms, to control most of our lives. And I just say, get off my land. I've said this before, forgive me, folks. Get off my land, get out of my car, get out of my kitchen. Don't be telling me what kind of appliances I have to buy or what kind of heating system I have to have. It's my home, it's my land. Let me make my choices. That's freedom.
It is. And I honestly believe there is climate change.
Sure there is.
And when I get to heaven, I'm going to ask God why he did it. Because there's no understanding of it, and there's no pattern of it, and there's a lot of things in life that I don't understand. But it is something that God is in control of.
It's natural.
It's natural.
It's the ebb and flow of the weather. And I can't believe how many people are buying into this. But you know what? a lot of them are buying into it because it meets their financial benefit. Forcing the people this, that, to do this and that or the other thing. And I say, leave us alone. There is a problem. I don't know how it affects the climate, so to speak. But for instance, in China, they have so many coal plants. The poor people there have to wear masks just to walk on the street. And then maybe that flows with the wind or whatever to other places. But that's something that shouldn't be happening. It's not healthy. But in terms of this fiasco, this global, what's the best word? Disaster that these people are perpetrating and teaching our young children.
Right.
They're being indoctrinated about this.
It's just another way of redistribution of wealth.
Well, that's part of it.
And that's part of it. And we really need to be good stewards of this world.
Absolutely.
God put us here for a reason and is asking us every day to do the right things, whether it's our environment, whether it's our children, whether it's animals, whether it's nature. A few years ago, I had an opportunity to go to Taiwan on a diplomatic mission. And one of the islands that we visited was just outside, probably 3 miles from China. And basically, the Taiwanese island was surrounded by China. And we looked over at a city of 1 million people. And you could not tell that there was a city there because the smoke and the pollution and the smog was
That's
horrible.
disgusting.
So what we've done is we've decided that the UN is saying, well, we're going to have the U.S. pay millions and millions and billions of dollars
Really?
to clean up the world and clean up our act when we're the least polluting country in the world and giving more and more while others are taking advantage of us. And it's time that we realize that the UN is not our friend.
We need to get out of the UN as far as I'm concerned.
We need to stop paying for their mistakes and their beliefs and their craziness.
We give several $1 billion a year to the United Nations, and they vote against us all the time. So, United Nations is a misnomer. The nations are not united.
Right. The United Nations is a handout for American money.
Yep.
And they will come up with studies that need to be addressed, problems in the world that need to be addressed. Well, the only solution to their problems that they come up with is U.S. money. So we need to stop giving them money so that they can do things and blaming us for everything that happens in the world.
You're right, we need to take a good hard look at how we're spending our money in this country. And we're spending it around the world. And this president, I have to give a lot of credit to because he's saying, wait a minute. This doesn't make sense. We're sending multi-billions of dollars here. Why? When we have $22 trillion in debt now. When Obama came into office, we had approximately $10 trillion in debt. When he left office, we had $20 trillion in debt. All right? Where did that money go? How was it used? All of that money. And guess who one of the countries that holds our part of our debt is China, which makes us vulnerable as a nation.
It really does.
So we have a lot of work to do. And the president's a businessman, and he gets it. And he's, if you're a family and you're working hard and you're taking care of your family's needs, you're paying your debts and buying food and so forth, you can't be handing money out all over the place. We try to make donations to things that we believe in. That's a choice. But when you're made to do that, that's another thing.
Right. The other thing to think about when you look at the 22 candidates that are running for president, imagine them negotiating with China over trade. Imagine them thinking that as mayor of a third-rate city in Indiana, that you are capable of dealing with the leaders of China, that you're capable of dealing with the leaders in Syria and Iran and North Korea. You know, in your city alone, in South Bend, Indiana, rapes doubled while this guy was mayor. It's one of the worst crime cities in the country. He can't even deal with his own small city. And he wants to be leader of the free world and negotiate with people who want to do harm to our country?
No.
There is not one person, and let's look at our Senator Sanders. What does he want to do? He thinks Venezuela was a role model for this country as little as 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That he was in Cuba and thought they were wonderful. Show us where it works. We've got people who want to take our guns away from us. And my question to them all the time is, show me how you're going to take the guns away from criminals and then talk to me. Before you take them away from law-abiding citizens, show me your plan to take them away from the criminals.
Well, you know as well as I do, Jay, that the reason that they want to disarm us is so that government can have more control over us, okay? We can't defend ourselves against the government if we aren't armed. And there are a lot of people in this country who own guns, and that's a right. And it's the people who are criminals. A criminal is going to find a way to get a gun. They're going to steal it. They're going to find a way to get a gun. Mm-hmm. All right? There's no way we can fix that problem by penalizing the law-abiding gun owner. Right. And the gun owners need to stand up. That is a right, Second Amendment right, and we need to keep it.
Not just the gun owners, but every American needs to step up and say there's a Second Amendment and it's there for a reason.
Absolutely.
The Second Amendment was not put into our Constitution so that we can hunt turkeys and deer.
Right.
It is to protect us from our own government and to make sure that we can provide safety and security for our family, especially in crime-ridden areas where the government is not getting the job done.
Absolutely.
So the Second Amendment is not about hunting.
No.
It's about protecting the citizenry of this country.
Yes, 100%. I agree with you. And why would, well, these people, we're down to about 3 minutes. So is there anything in particular that we haven't covered that you wanted to make sure that, you know, we brought forward that we haven't?
I just want to say to people, take a look at what our president has done. Look at what he's done for our economy. 4% GDP, lowest unemployment since 1969. And we had low unemployment in 69 because half of our men were in the military in a war. So we don't need a war to be fully employed.
Right.
So look at the success. Don't look at the personality. Look at what the results are.
So what if he tweets? You know, he's doing great things for our country.
Yeah.
2 minutes.
He has to bypass the media that's against him. And the other thing I'd like to say is I would like to hear Senator Leahy, Congressman Welch, and Bernie Sanders, if we can find him, apologize to this president for calling him a criminal, for saying he was treasonous and a traitor to our country. And I don't know why they want more of this Mueller report, because they already say they know there's mountains of evidence. Well, if you had mountains of evidence, congressmen and senators, show it to us. Why do you need to look at the report? You already said you had everything against him.
It's a big con game, and it's disgraceful. They show no respect for our president, who is working on behalf of the people. And we're down to 1 minute, so...
Please, those in Congress, Democrats and Republicans, focus on doing your job. Focus on making this country secure and safe, making our economy work, making sure people are employed, that those who are sick are taken care of, and those who need help get help.
Yep.
But don't waste your time on things that don't make a difference.
Exactly. They're getting paid big bucks, and they're not doing their job. So we are done, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda.
Really appreciate you and having you come here. Folks, thank you for tuning in. I hope you learned a lot, and we got you thinking, and I will see you again next week. Have a great Mother's Day, moms. Good night.